Hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. George Simon, and welcome to another edition of the new Character Matters program. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we have faced for several decades now, and that has remained unchecked, largely unchecked, and that affects every single aspect of our lives. From the craziness we experience on the road while driving, to the relationship disasters in our homes, to the craziness that's infected our politics, every aspect of our lives is affected by the character crisis, which has become all too normalized in a culture steeped in attitudes of entitlement. Timeless principles have been lost and need to be reclaimed if we're to have the collective character and the individual character that will help us navigate the trials and tribulations of life, the inevitable trials and tribulations. Life has never been easy, but character is like a psychological immune system in a way. It helps us get through life's difficulties much more easily and helps us to profit from our experiences. And it also helps us not to add to problems that are inevitable in everyday life. And today I want to talk about something really critical to solid character, and that is a well-balanced, healthy ego. There's a lot of talk these days about narcissism. And as I've mentioned many times on my program, narcissism is not a singular phenomenon. It's a dimension of personality, to be sure. And it has many shapes and forms, comes in all shapes and sizes, all different kinds of manifestations, some of which are much more serious than others, much more problematic than others. Character disturbance, as I've said many times, varies as to type and degree. But it would be fair to say that the major problem with narcissistic attitudes and narcissistic behavior stems from an ego bent out of shape, unbalanced in some ways. Now, it's interesting because we can't get through life very well without a solid ego. Our ego is what helps us to navigate this crazy mixed up world of ours. And if we don't have much of an ego, that in itself can be highly problematic. Folks whose egos are weak, for lack of a better term, who do not have a solid sense of self, who do not know how to adequately fend for themselves in this crazy mixed up world, have their own set of problems. So it is a sobering reality that to deal with all the slings and arrows of life, we need a strong ego. But it needs to be an ego in balance. And I talk about this in all of my books, especially in Sheep's Clothing and Character Disturbance, and most especially in my latest book, Essentials for the Journey. If anything, I would hope that folks might avail themselves of that book, if only for the discussion on ego and its rightful place and its much needed balance. What we think of ourselves matters, and how we choose to operate in this world matters. And the state and condition of our ego has a lot to do with that. In our current cultural climates, it's easy for egos to get bent out of shape. We get so many messages about self-importance. We get so many mixed messages, sometimes very harmful messages, about what constitutes healthy self-esteem. In my books, I always differentiate between self-esteem and self-respect. Self-esteem having largely to do with what we know in the deepest recesses of our hearts we have going for us in the way of innate gifts and talents, gifts of the universe, if you will. And self-respect having much more to do with what we have done with those things, how we have conducted ourselves, how worthy we are of the genuine admiration and respect of others. Respect is the most priceless of all commodities, and as such, it really needs to be earned. This is a foreign concept to many these days. But ego can get bent out of shape in many ways besides an inflated sense of self-importance. We can overestimate our abilities. We can even overestimate our worth, especially when we don't know where our worth really comes from. Perhaps nothing is as important to integrity of character than a properly balanced, properly formed, and properly operational ego. A sense of self grounded in a proper appreciation for one's worth and the worth of others, neither inflated or deflated, neither meek nor grandiose, and perhaps most important of all, an ego not primarily interested in self-aggrandizement, but rather in service of the greater good. And perhaps that one thing alone is what defines the healthy character. A person who knows their worth, a person who has a balanced sense of self, a person who knows how to operate in this world with care for oneself while respecting the welfare of others, and therefore an ego willing to not just self-serve, but to serve the greater good. That's character. And it all starts with a healthy ego. And to get that, we have to overcome a lot of negative tendencies that the world helps instill in us right from an early age. Which is why, as I mentioned in Essentials for the Journey, in order to get to the stage where we develop a healthy ego, a lot of other lessons have to be mastered first. And not just mastered, but taken to heart. You see, at some point, we are going to appreciate just how challenging and monumental the task is of developing solid character. And we're also going to be forced to appreciate, once again, how crucial character is to the proper functioning of our lives and our society. Many of us are completely off the rails. In my own neighborhood, speed limits are but a suggestion. Observing a stop sign is a maybe. All that matters is that I get where I want to go as fast as I want to get there. Every day, we read about another person who is upset for some reason and decides that somebody must pay, and without any compunction, takes out their wrath indiscriminately. And our only proposed solution is to restrict access or to attempt to restrict access to the instruments of violence, as opposed to attending to the origins of this propensity for undisciplined behavior. Having life smack you in the face is not new. Hardship, not new. Emotional pain so great you want to lash out, not new. No compunction about indiscriminately doing it, new. And the inevitable result of decades of collective character decline. It's been a vicious cycle, a true vicious cycle, with elements of the culture fostering more and more character dysfunction. And as more character disturbed folks enter the society, cultural decline accelerates. It's a classic vicious cycle, and it has to reverse. And until my dying breath, I'm going to keep sounding the alarm. And I'm going to keep touting the only reasonable solution. Our laws will not save us. Our restrictions will not save us. Our prisons will not protect us. The answer lies in character, in reclaiming its importance, and in reclaiming the fundamental principles that every human being must master to operate in this world as a decent human being. So I'll be spending the next few weeks talking about how we develop a healthy sense of self. And in mid-March, we will have a live edition of this program. It'll be either a Facebook live feed or a YouTube live event, probably a YouTube live event on this channel. And I'll be able to answer questions in real time. But until the next podcast on this same channel, thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. George Simon. I urge you once again to visit my blog at drgeorgesimon.com and avail yourself of all my books and the hundreds of free articles available online. Until next time, take care and remember, character matters more than anything, especially now.